Right, jumping over to the vol side, realized vol obviously spiked huge. We went from about 30 vol to around 50 on Bitcoin and from around 50 to 90 on Ethereum. Front end vols obviously reacted and spiked anywhere between, say, 10 and 20 points. Curves went into inversion, as you can see here. Pretty decent inversions from contango term structures previously. Carry did flip into negative on both. It's coming at around neutral on Bitcoin right here. Still pretty negative on Ethereum. So realized we're obviously coming back with a vengeance. OHLC charts show that the massive drop really was about a 3-4 implied move type, move. It was huge. Since then, we've been a bit more orderly, kind of respecting the ranges, but today we've breached on the downside again. So we are in a precarious spot here if it does want to head lower and retest those lows. Yeah, I do think, what happens on the second test of those lows is if we do test those lows, it's going to be very important. We're either going to hold them and get a bullish divergence and away we go, or they're going to break and all hell's going to break loose in crypto markets, right? So I think it is quite an important inflection point coming if we were to retest those lows. Here's your price action. Here's your time series, sorry. Show you what went on there. Reaching a kind of 90 handle in front end 1 week Ethereum vol. But obviously it doesn't stay there for very long and does get hit fairly quickly. Even hitting above 70 on Bitcoin. Skew, you can see, did reach quite extreme. About 10 vols for puts on weekly Bitcoin skew, and it got to about 12 vols on Ethereum. So pretty deep put skew in the front end, but the long end, as you can see, still hanging in there. So these skew curves all going steep, and the front end getting dragged into negative, i.e. put skew, but it's very front focused, as in if you look further out, if you look at Bitcoin, anything in next year actually found a little bit of a bid towards calls in terms of the skew. So people using the dip to buy longer dated stuff, it looks like, on the upside. And Ethereum, whilst it has gone quite deep into put skew in the front, once we get into November, it's neutral to positive again, back for calls, right? So the skew only really reacting to this puke in the front is not really calling time on the bull market just yet from what we can see. So the options market is still thinking it's a dip buying opportunity. Okay, and then closing out on RV, relative value, ETH Bitcoin spot did overshoot to the downside, hitting 0.032. So looking quite ugly, back in the downtrend, but it has since recovered right back to that downtrend support resistance area that's been it's been gravitating around for ages. The vol spread did widen out to 30 vols in the front again after the massive drop. We hit about 20 vols in the back end, but because ETH is clearly the high beta asset and is behaving that way, I don't think a 30 vol premium is unjustified in the front. In fact, I think it's probably going to realize over that quite comfortably, right? Just means that Ethereum's going to do an extra kind of 1.5% compared to Bitcoin every day. I don't think that's actually that challenging for Ethereum right now. And then looking at the skew differential, clearly they've gone into negative on the front, saying that October Ethereum downside is still very, very kind of relevant and in demand. But once we get into November onwards, a clear bias towards Ethereum calls still, and therefore, the bull case for altcoins into 2026 still appears to be intact. Market wants to see more evidence that bull market is over for now. All right, guys, that is your summary and what I'm seeing in crypto vol markets this week. Hope you guys stayed safe out there and didn't blow your accounts up. Remember, if you do want to learn about hedging, because you've got a decent stack in crypto and you don't want to give it all up on these sort of crazy moves, then you may want to consider some of the hedging strategies that we employ over at Options Insight. Feel free to come and check that out. All right, cheers for watching. I'll catch you guys next week.
Hi everyone, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Remember, this is just a little taster of what we do at Options Insight. To get access to all our research, including my in-depth vol market insights, flows and positioning report, and my portfolio trades, and a whole lot more, you can sign up at options-insight.com. I'll see you soon.